welcome back to Room 237 for another Italian Giallo review. And this time it is for the 1977 Giallo, 9 Guests for a Crime. Not to be confused with Killer Reserve 9 Seats, which oddly enough is very similar. It's another sort of Agatha Christie and then there were none type story, type of Giallo mystery. This was directed by Ferdinando Baldi, who mostly known for spaghetti westerns. I believe this was his only Giallo. And it was written by Fabio Pittoru, who I don't think I've seen any other... Oh, okay, he wrote quite a bit, actually. Weekend Murders, which I still need to see. Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave. Red Queen Kills 7 Times, which is one of my favorites. In this, a few Polizia films. Okay. And it was actually produced by Mario Davanzati and Mario DiNardo. Now, the thing about Mario DiNardo is, before he was a producer, he was a writer, and he wrote Mario Bava's $5 for an August Moon, which, that version of the script was the one that Bava hated so much that he tossed it away and pretty much improvised a whole new script. But DiNardo must have really had faith in it, because this movie is almost exactly the same. It's a group of people on some desert island resort, and they're picked off by a killer, and there's a mystery as to who it is. Now, it's been a long time since I've seen $5 for an August Moon. It was among the first, I think, 16 that I reviewed, so it's been quite a while. So there's not a whole lot that I remember about it, but this is very similar to that, like almost the same structure and kind of idea. But also there's even sort of a minor subgenre of Giallo called the Desert Island Giallo, because there's another one with Edwidge Fenech called Top Sensation, also known as, I think his alternate title is The Seducers, which I still have not seen. But from what I do remember, yeah, this is very close to $5 for an August Moon. Only this one lacks the style of Mario Bava. It's more sleazier, especially, in the realm of sexuality, because by this time, 77, Giallo was way out of popularity. I mean, not way out, but it was way past its prime. Polizia was still reigning supreme, so they had to kind of find a new angle to help it stand out, and the world of hardcore pornography was really growing in popularity. So it kind of found a mid-ground. Now, obviously, this is not as pornographic or extreme as other films, like, of the time, like Play Motel, or actually Slaughter Hotel was years before this, or Sister of Ursula. Not quite that far, but it does have a lot of prolonged sex scenes in it. It also has a touch of gothic horror, not in the sense of its atmosphere, but in the sense that there is this deep, dark secret that is really at the heart of this family and is really their downfall. It also really follows the Pre-Argento type formula, where it does follow the misdeeds and the sins of the wealthy, almost to an exploitative level. I mean, even even when you get the revelation of the kill in the opening scene, why that happened, you know, is when one character explains it to another, you know, about poor people, it kind of falls into that formula as well. But I, as I've said before, in all the ones that are like this, Killer is one of 13. Killer reserved 9 seats. I'm a huge sucker for these Agatha Christie and Then There Were None type stories. I love them so much. This one was a little harder to follow than at first, as far as characters and their relationships, than the other two. This one doesn't really have a scene like the dinner scene in Killer is one of 13, or after the first attempted murder in Reserve 9 Seats, where all the characters are together and just kind of talking to and about each other, so you can really get who is who. Especially since, you know, you have 4 married couples and then an aunt, and almost everyone is having an affair with someone else there. So it gets very confusing at first as to who is who and who's married to who, and it can get confusing, especially since a lot of the characters don't really stand out that much at first, other than the one that believes she's a psychic. Who was it? John Richardson's character, who's the brother that gets walked all over, kind of like a Fredo type character. And then Arthur Kennedy's character, who's the old man. He's like the patriarch of the family. Other than that, none of them really stand out that much. But before I get into that, so I've already said who it was directed by, and so it stars Arthur Kennedy as the patriarch of the family, who's credited as Ubaldo, but in the subtitles, because this only came with Italian audio and English subtitles, his name is Roberto. And there was someone named Jenny that came up once in the subtitles, and I was so confused because I didn't know who Jenny was. And Arthur Kennedy, I mean, he's like a 5-time Oscar-nominated actor. And then you have John Richardson, who looked very familiar. I know I had seen he was in Black Sunday. I know I had seen a bunch of movies with him in it. Eyeball. Okay, that was the one that I had seen more recently. Reflections in Black, which is another one that I need to see. And he was the architect in The Church, which I have reviewed. And you also have Caroline Lawrence, Massimo Fasci, Loretta Paraschetti, Flavia Fabiani, which that name does seem familiar, but I can't click on it. Valentino Vendentini, which I know he was in City of the Living Dead. I know more than that. I guess for a crime. Anyway. And the music was done by Carlo Savina, who had worked with Bava several times, and I think he even recycled some of his music from Lisa and the Devil for this, which I really like the score for this. There's several different kinds that work really well. You have like the vocal type score that you get in a lot of Gialli that I really liked. You get this very dark, melancholic violin during several parts, which I really liked. And then one that is just like this eerie, ominous tone that just keeps building up. So, and I have read that some people thought the score was kind of nothing, but I actually thought the score was one of the better parts of this. Oh, and some of the other titles, which I always try to say first because I know other people will tell me, so I just try to get it out of the way. Death Comes from the Past was the Spanish title, and A Scream in the Night was the alternate Italian title. I like Nine Guests for a Crime. I always like titles like that. So the film opens up with this couple, they're making out on the beach, and we see four, we only see from like the waist down. These four men approach, they all have shotguns. They're shooting at the guy that's making out with the woman. They shoot him in the knees as he's running away. Oh, it's also not a very big effects film. I mean, there are parts where someone will get shot and they just kind of fall and there's no real blood. Unless there's an obvious cut, and then we'll see them kind of holding, like, with blood underneath. And then they go to bury him, but he's still alive. And so then we get this up-close shot of the hand coming out of the sand and kind of writhing, and then freeze frame. Kind of a hint of, did he make it out? Did he die right then? That's kind of the mystery throughout the film. And then around 20 years later, we have this family headed by Arthur Kennedy's character. I'm just going to say Roberto because that's what he was in the subtitles. Who brings his kids and their spouses to their sort of desert island villa for a 2-week getaway. Now, Roberto is married to the young Julia, played by Caroline Lawrence. And he has sons, Michelle, played by Massimo Fasci, Lorenzo, played by John Richardson, and Walter, played by Valentino Valentini. Now, Michelle is married to Carla, which she's played by Sofia Dionisio, but she's credited as Flavia Fabiani. Lorenzo is married to Greta, played by Rita Silva, and Walter is married to Patrizia, who's played by Loretta Paraschetti. Also accompanying them is Aunt Elizabeth, who is not on the... Oh, who's played by Dana Gia. Sounds like a lot, but then when you find out that Julia is having an affair with Michelle, and their whole affair is trying to find a way to take out the old man so they can get the inheritance. Walter starts up an affair with Greta because Greta is just tired of Lorenzo just kind of being a weakling. She talks down to him all the time and says he's not really a man, can't stick up for himself. And yeah, he's kind of the joke of the family. So her and Walter start up an affair. And Patrizia is the one that claims to be a psychic, and she keeps preaching about blood and death coming towards us. But she's also a huge alcoholic. So now we got all that out of the way. what sets up them being stuck at this island is there's a couple deaths because they have what they call sailors, these young guys, drive their yacht out to the place, then take the the yacht away for a couple weeks, and they go to pick them back up. But the killer has swam all the way to where they are out in the ocean, kills them, lets the anchor go, and then swims back and just lets the yacht go adrift out into the ocean. And there's not a lot to the death scenes. I mean, one of the sailors is stabbed, the other one is shot. The killer still has black gloves, but also has like, you know, a wetsuit, scuba gear. Most of the deaths are off screen or from far away. There's not a whole lot to them. There is a couple. I mean, the most grisly one would be when one of the characters falls into a hole in the beach, has a net thrown on him, shot in the legs, then covered in gasoline and set on fire. That's probably the nastiest, but you don't really see a lot. Yeah, it's not a big effects film, but things really start to, or someone is, well, actually, I'll take that back. There is one death that is does feel a lot like a Bava film, and it's with like a harpoon gun, like a smaller one. So one of the characters is shot through the neck, and then kind of all this vibrant red blood comes out of the mouth, and we just kind of see him fall back, kind of slide down. Not only that, but then the body is then put in front of a door, so when someone opens it, there's that tableau right in front of them. Not only does that look and feel just like a Mario Bava death scene, but also what we would see later if like a Friday the 13th movie, which Bay of Blood was a huge inspiration on. So it really has that, you know, proto slasher influence, especially on like a Friday the 13th type death and scare scene that we would see. So I like that. Or another character is decapitated, but we don't find out till someone goes to shake her awake and the head just kind of rolls off the bed. But yeah, it's not overly stylish. You do get some Bava-esque, like if someone's standing in front of a mirror, we just see it. The camera holds on the mirror, and that's how we look at the character. One of my favorite shots was the camera underneath a glass table looking up, and someone dumps all these shotgun shells on it. We just see them kind of disperse across the table. Really like that scene. But anyway, so some time goes by, they're out on the island, and Carla seems to be drowning. But she's calling for help. They all think she's kind of fooling. So they don't do anything at first, but then a couple of them go out and look. They can't find her body. So Carla, who is Michelle's wife, they think she had drowned and kind of got washed out to sea. But at this point on Elizabeth, who, for like the first half of the film, I forgot she was even in it. It would just kind of show her sitting there or whatever for like a brief second. Every time it did, I kept forgetting who she was. She starts to think that Charlie has come back. And she seems just as mentally unstable as the psychic wife. Talking about Charlie, how Charlie's going to come back, and Charlie's now back to get revenge. And that's when we find out that Charlie was the guy from the very beginning. And I don't think this is really a spoiler because it's a major plot point. Yeah, it's not really a spoiler. Was the guy from the beginning, and he was making out with Aunt Elizabeth, this like I said, this was about 20 years ago. And he was killed by the three brothers and the father. Reason being, because he was poor. I guess they all are pretty sadistic. This is being told from Greta to Julia. And Greta says it's just a family of psychopaths, and they think they're better than everyone, and that they can get away with anything, and they hate poor people. That's why they killed Charlie, because a poor man was making out with, one of them. And Charlie was one of the sailors back then. So, and she thinks Charlie has come back for revenge. And that's sort of the whole who is the killer. Is it really Charlie? Is it someone else? It even plays with the idea that it could be that Charlie is dead, but he's like undead. But when it comes up to the twist, I thought, okay, like a good Giallo, you can always, when you get the twist in the reveal at the end, if you backtrack to everything that happened and it makes sense, I think this is one of them. But, and yeah, by then they are killed off one by one. The three brothers start becoming more and more paranoid. They even go to where they buried Charlie and they can't find his body, so they start to think, they know they buried him alive still, so maybe he did get out of it. But why would they wait 20 years for revenge? And, who will be left of this family and how will it end? But I actually thought it was pretty good. And I don't remember too much of $5 for an August Moon. I think that one was a bit more stylish, but is one I might have to go back and revisit. But this is another solid Agatha Christie type Giallo, and like I said, I'm always a sucker for those. I didn't really see the end coming, like who the killer was, but when I looked back at everything that had happened and I saw the breadcrumbs that were laid there, I was like, okay, this is one where I could say, if people say they guessed correctly before, yeah, okay, that I'll probably believe, because it is kind of obvious when you go back and think about the whole film up to that point. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's another solid one. Not the only thing I can really say was the first act does kind of drag, and it can get frustrating trying to remember and place who each of the characters are and who's married to who, because then you get all the affairs to think about. So it just kind of gets confusing. But I really like the score. The cinematography is good as well. I mean, it uses its landscapes very well. In contrast to some other ones, this very bright, sunny of cinematography, which you don't get a whole lot of deaths like that, except for this one where I'll say it's Patrizia, while she's drunk, just seemingly jumps off this cliff right in front of them. But I'll get to that when I get to spoilers. So, but yeah, still another solid Giallo. 9 Guests for a Crime. I really enjoyed it. So now I'm going to get into spoilers. So yeah, the first death was Carla, who supposedly drowned, and then Patrizia, who supposedly committed suicide, jumping or falling off this cliff. Which, at this point, the three brothers are trying to find Charlie, and Elizabeth is acting all crazy. They see her running out towards the rocks, so they go after her. She starts preaching about, it's a bloody body right here in front of me. Do you see it? Do you see it? But there's nothing there. And then that's when Patrizia jumps and lands right in front of them. Just making it sound like Charlie's talking to her or letting her know what's going to happen. Oh, I also forgot to mention, they also can't leave because the spark plugs have been taken out of the spare boat. And then the old man is killed. He's poisoned because he takes milk every night with sleeping pills. They start to blame Julia. And then Greta is found decapitated. And Julia, which is this character, is garroted. And Michelle is the one that gets the harpoon through the neck. And Walter is the one that... Because there is this one gag where she's starting to preach about Charlie, Aunt Elizabeth is. And they're kind of not having it. So they walk out this door and there's this skeletal corpse kind of splayed out for them, wearing white, bloody clothes, which from the waist down does look like what Charlie was wearing. You know, kneecaps blown out from the shotgun and bloody. And they say he's even wearing the clothes that Charlie was wearing. But Charlie wasn't wearing a shirt. And no one brings that up. And the corpse is wearing the shirt, or a shirt. And no one says, well, he wasn't wearing a shirt. But whatever. Just small detail. Walter goes to take care of the body. And that's when he's... You know, he falls in this trap, he falls in a hole, net thrown over him, shot a couple times, covered in gasoline, set on fire. I don't remember the order of all the deaths. I think that was one of the first ones. And then somewhere in there is the old man, the Greta, I think Julia. Michelle was one of the last ones. But, so the one that's left is Lorenzo, the one that everyone thought was the weakling of the family, that no one took seriously, kind of walked all over. He was the one that made it. He's the last one with Aunt Elizabeth. Oh, and to make it look like it might be a ghost, there is a point where there's this curtain over a door, and we see the silhouette of someone standing there, presumably Charlie, which we see from a distance a couple times, someone in all white, blood-spattered clothes, kind of longer black hair. So they think it's Charlie. And when we see the silhouette standing in front of this curtain, Michelle shoots at it with a shotgun. Person walks away like it's nothing. But by this point, Lorenzo seems to know what's going on. He's the last one. He points the shotgun at Elizabeth and says, all right, tell me what's going on. And he empties the shotgun and he says, I know those are blanks. I know Michelle was shooting at your ghost with blanks. And he put real ones in it. And he says, Charlie is actually your daughter, isn't it? That's when she admits it, and she's like, how did you know? And he says, well, she's the only one whose body is not accounted for, Carla. Carla is Aunt Elizabeth's daughter, the child of Charlie, and which means that Carla would have had to marry her cousin, Michelle, but I don't think that's really addressed. And also, while she's pretending to drown, people say, oh, she's done this before, she pulls these pranks, or she's attempted suicide a number of times. So there's that. There's also the fact that the killer had to swim all the way out to the sailors to kill them and let the yacht go, and then swim all the way back without being noticed. Carla has to be a good swimmer in order to fake her death and swim away, so that makes sense. So, yeah, she faked her death and then took everyone out because she is the daughter of Charlie, wanted revenge on this family. And so that's when Lorenzo says, okay, well, we're going out to this boat. where are the spark plugs? And Carla says, I hid them over there. He tells her to go get them, which she does, but then she runs away. He goes after her, shoots her, but he also shoots Aunt Elizabeth, who crawls in the boat, dumps all the gasoline, then crawls back out. Lorenzo gets the spark plugs, goes back, puts them in the boat, and then we see from a distance, when he starts it up, it explodes and kills him. Carla watches with a smile on her face as she dies. So this is one of the very few Gialli I can think of where every character dies. Both, and there's not really a good guy in it either. It's one of those kind of like Hateful Eight, I guess, where there's lesser evil, I guess. You don't really have a really good guy, but everyone is dead by the end of it, which I know in Hateful Eight isn't the case, but like both the killer and the hunted, I guess, who's also a bad person, everyone dies, and there's no way off the island or even to the island at this point. So it's like this family, this sort of this beach house, this secret, everything dies with this family at this island. Nice gothic kind of storytelling. But yeah, I thought this was a solid film. Has great pieces of music put to certain parts, like when they're all looking for Carla's body. It's that melancholic violin, which comes up a few times. But yeah, I'm always a sucker for these Agatha Christie style ones, and I might have enjoyed this more than Killer Reserve 9 Seats. Even though I do like the setting of that one a little bit more. This one is kind of, we've seen it before, like $5 for an August Moon and Top Sensation, but it still told very well. And I like it when you get the reveal of the killer and you kind of backtrack, think about all the breadcrumbs, and it makes sense. There's no like sweater threads where if you pull it, it falls apart. Other than the fact that, yeah, Carla would have had to marry her cousin. But they do kind of say that after Charlie died, Elizabeth went on a trip around the world. I'm guessing that's where she gave birth to Carla. And I guess try to make it look different. But yeah, that's the only thing that's kind of weird about it. But yeah, I thought this was a very solid film. Another solid Agatha Christie type. I might still say Killers 1 of 13 is my favorite of this type. But yeah, still solid. So that's the next to last one I have from the bunch from Trash Palace. I still have Human Cobras, and then I have the homage films Francesca and Amer to still get to. I also still have the Q&A video up, which was my last one, so go to that video and leave your questions in the comments. I'm probably going to hit 1,000 videos before the 2 weeks is up, so I'll still celebrate 1,000 videos, but the answer video might be 1,001 or 1,002 or whatever. I wasn't expecting to reach 1,000 this quickly, because I think I have one more video left before I hit 1,000, so I'm still going to wait, but I'll continue making videos. But anyway, so stay tuned for all those, and thank you for watching.